Every case has evidence, every clue has a story, and every mystery has a solution hidden somewhere in the facts. The question is, can you find it before we reveal the answer? This is the case file. November 24th, 1971, the day before Thanksgiving, Portland International Airport, Oregon. A man approached the Northwest Orient Airlines counter, middle-aged, probably mid-40s, wearing a dark business suit, a white shirt, and a black clip-on tie. He paid cash for a one-way ticket to Seattle, Washington, a flight of less than 30 minutes. He gave his name as Dan Cooper. He boarded Flight 305, took seat 18C, ordered a bourbon and soda while the plane waited on the runway. To everyone around him, he looked like an unremarkable businessman heading home for the holiday. Shortly after takeoff, he passed a note to a flight attendant named Florence Schaffner. She assumed it was a phone number, the kind of thing nervous businessmen sometimes did. She slipped it into her pocket without reading it. Cooper leaned toward her and said quietly, "Miss, you'd better look at that note. I have a bomb." The note was brief and direct. It said he had a bomb in his briefcase and instructed her to sit beside him. She did. He opened the briefcase just enough to show her the contents. Wires, red cylinders, a battery. It looked exactly like a viable explosive device. His demands were specific and unusual. $200,000 in unmarked $20 bills, 4 parachutes, 2 main, 2 reserve, and a fuel truck waiting in Seattle to refuel the aircraft upon landing. The pilot relayed the demands to air traffic control. Northwest Orient Airlines agreed to comply immediately. The passengers were told there was a minor mechanical delay. None of them knew a hijacking was underway. The plane circled Seattle for nearly 2 hours while the money and parachutes were gathered. $200,000 in $20 bills, that's 10,000 individual notes, was assembled from local banks. The FBI, alerted immediately, made a critical decision. They photographed every single banknote and recorded every serial number before handing them over. When the plane finally landed in Seattle, Cooper allowed all 36 passengers and 2 flight attendants to disembark. He kept the cockpit crew and 1 flight attendant, Tina Mucklow, on board. The money and parachutes were delivered. Cooper inspected them carefully, checking the parachutes himself with what witnesses described as genuine expertise. He then gave new instructions. Fly to Mexico City. Maintain an altitude below 10,000 feet. Keep the landing gear down. Fly with the wing flaps at 15 degrees. And use the rear air stair, the staircase built into the tail of the Boeing 727, which could be lowered during flight. These were not the demands of someone unfamiliar with aviation. They were precise, technical, and showed clear knowledge of the specific aircraft's capabilities. The plane took off again at 7:36 p.m. Cooper ordered the remaining crew into the cockpit and closed the curtain separating them from the passenger cabin. He was now completely alone in the rear of the aircraft. At some point between Seattle and Reno, Nevada, the cockpit crew felt a change in air pressure. A small indicator light blinked on, signaling the rear air stair had been opened. When the plane landed in Reno just after 11 p.m., the crew opened the cabin curtain. Cooper was gone. So was the money. The rear air stair was down. Outside, it was dark, cold, and raining heavily over dense mountain forest below. He had jumped from a commercial airliner traveling at over 200 miles per hour at an altitude of roughly 10,000 feet into a storm over rugged wilderness at night with $200,000 strapped to his body. The FBI launched what remains one of the largest manhunts in American history. They called it NORJAC, Northwest Hijacking. Search teams combed the projected landing zone for weeks. The aircraft itself was searched meticulously. Investigators found very little. What they did find, Cooper's clip-on tie left behind on his seat, a mother-of-pearl tie clip, 8 cigarette butts in the ashtray beside his seat, and 2 of the 4 parachutes. He had taken only 2 of the 4 provided, using the cord from a third to tie the money bag shut. That detail matters. He left 2 parachutes behind, including one that had been deliberately sewn shut for training purposes. meaning it would never have opened. If he had grabbed that one by mistake, he would have died instantly. He didn't. He chose carefully. No body was ever found, no parachute, no briefcase, no definitive trace. Then, in February 1980, an 8-year-old boy named Brian Ingram was digging in the sandy bank of the Columbia River near Vancouver, Washington, about 9 miles from where investigators believed Cooper might have landed. He uncovered 3 decaying bundles of cash, still held together with rubber bands. The serial numbers matched Cooper's ransom money exactly. $5,800 of the original $200,000, buried in riverbank sand for nearly 9 years. That is the evidence. You now have everything the FBI had to work with for decades. So here is the challenge, using only the evidence presented. Can you figure out who this man was? Can you determine whether he survived the jump? And can you explain how partial ransom money ended up buried on a riverbank nearly a decade later? Ask yourself these questions. Why did he choose 2 specific parachutes out of 4? And what does that choice reveal about his level of training? Why did he request the rear air stair specifically, a feature unique to certain aircraft? Why was the money found buried rather than simply lost or scattered by the river current? And what kind of person has the precise aviation knowledge to make demands like altitude, flap settings, and air stair operation under pressure? Put it together. Form your theory. Did he survive? Was he a trained paratrooper, a pilot, an aircraft mechanic, or something else entirely? And how did that money end up exactly where it was found? Pause the video now. Write it down. We'll reveal everything when you come back, including a major development from 2025 that has reopened this 50-year-old case for the very first time. We'll see you on the other side. The FBI pursued thousands of leads over the following decades. By the case's 5th anniversary, more than 800 suspects had been considered and eliminated, leaving only a couple dozen as serious candidates. One name kept resurfacing: Richard Floyd McCoy Jr. Less than 5 months after the Cooper hijacking, in April 1972, a man boarded a flight in Denver, Colorado, brandished a handgun, and demanded 4 parachutes and $500,000. The hijacking played out almost identically to Cooper's. The hijacker jumped from the rear air stair of the aircraft mid-flight and vanished into the night. Unlike Cooper, McCoy was caught. FBI agents identified him within days through fingerprint evidence left on a magazine he'd handled during the flight. He was a former U.S. Army helicopter pilot, a trained Green Beret with extensive parachute experience, and a Sunday school teacher with a wife and 2 children. McCoy was convicted and sentenced to 45 years. He escaped from federal prison in 1974 and was killed in a shootout with FBI agents 3 months later. Investigators at the time noted the striking similarities between McCoy and the Cooper sketch, but the FBI ultimately ruled McCoy out, partly because witnesses described Cooper as having a darker complexion, and partly because McCoy reportedly had an alibi for Thanksgiving Eve 1971. For nearly 50 years, the McCoy theory remained dismissed. Then in 2025, everything changed. A team of independent investigators obtained a parachute rig and a skydiving logbook connected to the McCoy family. The parachute showed unique aftermarket modifications, alterations matching almost exactly the specific equipment provided to Cooper in 1971. One investigator who examined it called it, quote, literally 1 in a billion. The logbook reportedly documented jumps in the exact rugged terrain of Oregon and Washington where both hijackings occurred. And then came the most significant development of all. Forensic reanalysis of Cooper's clip-on tie, the one definitive piece of physical evidence ever recovered, revealed something investigators in 1971 had no way to detect. The tie was coated in more than 100,000 microscopic particles, including unalloyed titanium, bismuth, and strontium sulfide. These are not substances found in ordinary environments. They point toward a highly specialized industrial setting: aerospace manufacturing, metallurgy, or chemical engineering. Exactly the kind of environment a former military pilot with technical training might have worked in. The FBI has now taken possession of the parachute and logbook. They have collected DNA samples from McCoy's surviving son and daughter, comparing them against trace genetic material recovered from the tie. As of this recording, results have not been made public. The case, officially closed since 2016, has effectively been reopened in all but name. Here is what we know with reasonable confidence. A man with genuine aviation and parachuting expertise hijacked a commercial aircraft, made precise technical demands, selected his equipment carefully, and executed an extraordinarily dangerous jump that very few people could have survived. He left almost no trace beyond a tie, some cigarette butts, and partial ransom money that surfaced years later under circumstances still not fully explained. Here is what we don't know. Whether he survived the jump itself, the conditions were brutal, and many experts believe the odds were heavily against him. How the money came to be buried on that riverbank rather than simply lost, and whether Richard Floyd McCoy Jr., the man whose methods so closely mirrored Cooper's just 5 months later, was the same person, or simply someone who studied Cooper's blueprint and copied it. And here is the clue that was always there, present in the evidence from the very beginning, waiting to be found. The choice of parachutes. He was given 4, 2 main canopies, 2 reserves. One of those reserves had been deliberately sewn shut for static line training purposes. It would never have opened under any circumstances. Cooper inspected all 4 parachutes personally before takeoff. He selected 2 specific ones and left the sewn-shut training chute behind, untouched. Only someone who genuinely understood parachute rigging, who could visually identify a static line training reserve versus a functional one, would have known to avoid it. A panicked amateur, grabbing equipment under pressure, would have a real chance of selecting the wrong one. Cooper did not make that mistake. That single choice, made calmly in the minutes before one of the most dangerous jumps in aviation history, tells you almost everything about who this man really was. Did you spot it? The hidden tell wasn't the money, or the tie, or even the precise flight demands. It was what he didn't take, the one chute he knew, with absolute certainty, not to touch. The case of D.B. Cooper remains officially the only unsolved commercial aircraft hijacking in American history. For now. That is, the case file. A new case every week. Real evidence, real clues. One chance to solve it before the reveal. Subscribe, and we will see you next case.